On the topic of time travel in this particular medium, there's a certain archetype or archetype that is prevalent across a lot of mediums as it relates to characters who come from the future, go back to the past. Let's get into that.
Yeah, there's definitely a trend of archetypes characters where time travelers from the future arrive in the present or the past, and they're badass warriors from a battle hardened future to save the universe, to save the world. I think Cable.
Oh
I think.
man.
Oh man, no disrespect to Rob Liefeld, but I think Cable is one of the most overrated, most generic one of the most overrated generic characters of recent X-Men era
Say it
from
again.
90s. I think he's just the stereotypical. I think he's just a walking, talking cliche, man. I really think he's a trope onto himself, honestly, in terms of that type of character who's a badass time traveler. I think Josh Brolin embraced it very well, and I mean he could play that role in his sleep in Deadpool too. But it's not a lot of meat to the bones of that kind of character. The
Nope.
way that character is presented, especially in
Nope.
comparison to someone like Bishop, who
Mm-hmm.
has more a little bit more depth to his character rather than just being a stereotype badass in the future. Something about that is definitely common in different mediums, whether it be comics, television, movies. John Connor in Terminator, uh, Trunks from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, man.
Well,
Your part.
well, like the thing. Okay, so the thing about Cable is that a lot of it just seems very forced.
Hmm.
Like that's the biggest issue for me is that it seems very forced with the character of Cable. Of course, he's from the future. Of course, he's coming back in time to prevent something from happening. That's the entire purpose of someone being a time traveler. You know, you've never seen aside from like Booster Gold, who I'm not 100% familiar with. You rarely ever see a character travel back in time with a smile on their face, right?
Right. Yeah, that's pretty rare.
You rarely ever see a happy time traveler because it doesn't make sense. If you were content or happy with the timeline where you're living, you wouldn't want to go back to the past. But digress. I feel that the character Cable is just very forced. There's nothing there that draws me in, and as a result of that, you have to keep adding handicaps and give me reasons to actually give a damn.
Right. Oh,
Like
he's
you,
Cyclops' son. Oh, he's a psychic. He's got the techno organic virus that's eating him up alive. And
mm-hmm.
no matter how many times he dies, he's grizzled and badass and always comes back in some kind of form.
And he's got a bunch of guns.
And guns and pouches. Pouches
Yep,
on top of pouches. Yeah.
and he's jacked, and he's
He's
jacked
jacked.
on top of all of that, right? Like
Right.
it just doesn't. The oh my goodness, man! Like the best thing that happened to the character of Cable was Deadpool.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. That was a nice counter programming. It's a good matchup for him to
Right.
alleviate some of that. Yeah.
It's a good balance because it gives that character something to play off of, but also makes you pay less attention to it, right? Because the
Hmm.
thing with these particular time traveler type characters is that all of them have to be badasses, but most of the time they're only badasses because you're telling us that they are. And instead of it being explained to me why Cable is this dangerous, hard ass, tough guy type character, instead of it being explained in a way that makes me interested, it's more explained like even in the X-Men cartoon. The first episode, his first appearance, I believe was the episode where they were on Genosha and he was there. You see him, he pops up, pulls out a bunch of guns, blows shit up, and then leaves, right?
Right.
Okay, if that's all I would have known about that character, that'd be okay. But when you got a guy who looks like that, scar on his face, white hair, muscles on top of muscles, metal arm, guns, headset, all of this shit, it's like, why do we need this? Compare that to a character like Bishop. Bishop is a time traveler, right?
Right.
Bishop is a muscular guy. He's pretty jacked. He carries guns, but Bishop has a mutant power that makes sense as well. He carries his gun, absorbs energy, and siphons the energy that he absorbs into the gun that he uses. All of that makes sense to the visual cues that you see off of the character, and nothing with Bishop appears to be forced.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He seems more natural and he can like adapt to like the times that he's in. Cable
Mm-hmm.
doesn't adapt. Cable's like, I'm Cable and I'm a badass
Yep.
and yeah, I'll talk like this the whole time I'm in the past. Well,
Yep.
Bishop has, he can adjust. He doesn't have to be scarred from the future. You know what I'm saying? He can date Storm. He can go to the bar with the X-Men and just
Mm-hmm.
kind of chill. Like, oh, I'm stuck in the past. Like, okay, I'll have to adjust. You know what I'm saying? So he kind of has
Mm-hmm.
a normal sense to him where, yeah, he's a time traveler, but he's also kind of a normal dude too. While
Right.
while Cable doesn't, you can't see Cable in any other kind of form or way. He's
Mm-hmm.
just that, yeah,
It's like the entire purpose without I would be interested in seeing Bishop doing anything. It just so happens that he's a time traveler.
right, right, yep,
If Cable isn't traveling back to the past, I don't care. I don't care.
yeah, yeah, dude. I mean, in the recent Hickman's run, they have a new younger form of him as a teenager, which is it's all right. He's kind of like he's still kind of dated. He still feels like a '90s character. He's a '90s teenager kid with a lot of guns and talks in a typical teenage way. So it's never really like he never really seems like a normal. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's the writers. I don't know. He never seems like a normal person or normal character. He always
Right.
seems to the extreme. Whether he's a kid, he's a teenager. Oh, now he's really extreme as a teenager. Like, oh yeah, dad, I like big guns, Or he's an adult. I'm a battle hardened badass,
Yep.
and I'm gonna kill everybody to make sure my future is saved.
Forced.
Yeah, forced. He always seems forced on one end, and I don't know who can correct that. I'm not sure if that's just that's just the character. Like the
Right.
character is just that, and there's nothing more to really dig into it. There's nothing more, and maybe that's why no one's really tried or attempted to really make that. I mean,
Cause if
you read one Cable comic, you read them all.
right.
Like
Because it's a character with no relatability. There's zero relatability at all. And okay, you mentioned Trunks. Okay, in my opinion, okay, while there are certain elements of some of that going on with Trunks, there with Trunks, I feel that there's a lot of relatability with that character as well.
mhm.
With the character of Trunks in particular, I feel like Trunks had the best overall story arc throughout the entire Dragon Ball. And I know
Mm,
that might not be a popular opinion, but the way I felt about Trunks is that when you seen him, it meant something. When you seen Trunks, you knew that he was there for a reason.
definitely.
Now, you could make jokes about him having the jacket and the sword and the hair and the belt and everything like that. And all of that is fair. All of that is fair play if we're calling this down the middle. But with Trunks, it was explained why he felt the way that he felt. The coolest thing to me about the character Trunks, aside from him having the second best Super Saiyan transformation in the entire series. That can't be debated. I don't
Yeah,
care.
Frieza shook, bro.
I don't care. And even when they did the flashback and showed what happened when he first made that transformation, Super Saiyan meant something because of what it took in order for the characters to get there. And
Mm,
seeing what Trunks went through in order to get to that status made it that much more special for the time.
right.
But with that character in particular, yes, he was strong. He's a tough guy, but at the core of it, Trunks was still a kid that never actually got to experience a childhood.
Mm,
So, in his own time, Trunks was a grown man. He was doing things as a man that he had to do. He was facing challenges and obstacles that he was forced to meet because of the things that happened in his timeline. When Trunks went back to the past, he was experiencing his first childhood.
yeah, yeah, that's completely fair assessment, man. Even he's able to experience. So this is what peace feels like. So this is
Mm-hmm.
what normalcy feels like. When Cable goes back in the past, he's just like, "Dad, you left me in the future. You abandoned." Like he doesn't, he doesn't smell the roses. It's just like I'm on the mission. The mission's the only thing that counts, and he can't really, he
Right.
can't take it off. He can't ease off on the brakes. He can't pump the brakes a bit. While
Mm-hmm.
Was more like, wow, so this is what peace feels like. This is what my parents are like. Oh, I kind of want to establish a relationship with my parents without them really knowing that I'm their son. You don't get that with Cable.
And even if it wasn't always peaceful when Trunks went back to the past, the pressure that was on him in his own timeline wasn't to the same degree as it was when he went back to the past.
Mm,
Seeing having his father there, having Goku there, having other people there that he could even confide in with some of the issues he was dealing with is something that was a big deal. And you got to see the results of some of that when you watch Dragon Ball Super, and then he goes back to his timeline and he's the man. And the insecurities that he was feeling have already been alleviated because he knows what it's like to see someone else under that same kind of pressure. So then he
mm.
takes that back to his time, and that's something he could relate to. And seeing a character go through that kind of arc is something that we also can kind of relate to or at least sympathize with. Even
Right.
though Trunks was a badass time traveler who could fight and had a sword and fucked up Frieza, he still was vulnerable in a way that you've never really got to see Cable be vulnerable.
Yeah, that is totally true, man. I mean, like you said, that SSJ transformation for Trunks with Gohan dying, bro. Whew, that that doesn't get talked about to me as much as it should be when it comes to top 10
Mm-hmm.
transformations in DBZ. Yo. That one scene by itself is more powerful than any any
Oh
storyline
man.
involving Cable, bro. Like I'm
Yeah,
dead
talk about it.
serious.
Talk about
Yeah, man.
it.
I mean, and there's certain, even Bishop, when he comes back and said Xavier's dream is dead, like that relatability, like, hey, like it's gone. Your dream, everything you represent is gone, bro. Like it's dead. There's something relatable like to that rather than just like the future is gone. The future is gone, and like it's like they're protecting. Like there's a sense of like I've read about the X-Men. I know about the X-Men. I'm like protecting your legacy. Your legacy is gone. Cable doesn't really delve into that. From what I've read and what I've seen, it's not like Cable's like I'm here to save my dad or like I'm here to save Xavier's dream. Like Bishop kind of has that. Trunks kind of has that. I'm trying to save the Z fighters. I'm trying to save Goku. Like this legacy that was cut short. I'm trying to save that legacy. And Cable just kind of has like I'm just trying to save the future. And I think that's one of the problems I think with Cable
Yep.
compared to other time travels. It's just
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't like the relatability isn't there, and he's not just trying to save. You know what I'm saying? Like my family, I'm trying to save. It's powerful. It's like if I have the power to save my father from dying in the future to prolong his life, I'm gonna take that action. But Cable's like being a dick about it. Like, you left me in the future, Dad, because I had this virus. You abandoned
Uh,
me, and so I hate you. So, you know what I'm saying? That there's a
yeah,
whole reconciliation between the two, between Scott and Cable, you know what I'm saying, to and Nathan, so they could, come together. But
yeah,
the relationship between Trunks and Vegeta was a lot better done than that.
right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, okay, Cable is a character. The other issue that I have is that Cable is a character that thinks he's the only one who can do it. The future cannot be saved unless I save it. And that adds even more of a reason why I don't like him. With Bishop, I never got the feeling that Bishop thought he was the only guy who could do it. He was working with partners. He had
Hmm.
Forge as his OG. Forge
Right.
was his OG. His sister was there going back in time with him. For him to say Xavier's dream is dead, he's saying that, but he can also give a reason as to why he's making that statement.
Hmm.
If the dream was still alive, I wouldn't be here telling you that it's dead in front of you right now. if
Yeah, man.
if it worked the way that it should have worked, I never would have had to travel back in time. With Cable, yeah, like I said, Cable is convinced he's the only guy that can do it. He's the lone wolf that has to save the entire world. No, you're not. Get out of here. Like, stop it. You know what I mean? Like, stop it.
Right.
Like, I
Right.
don't. Yeah, man. There isn't one character in X-Men who I feel as though could convincingly save the world, quote unquote. That's not what it was ever about. So to have this edge lordy type character that has muscles on top of muscles and guns and knives with a mutant ability and a metal arm, and on top of that, he's the only one that can save the world. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here? What are we
Oh
really doing?
man. And he's
Like,
died so many times. I died for my cause, and he gets revived, and he dies again for his cause, and he gets revived somehow, or he didn't die, and it's just a rinse and repeat process. I mean, we ate that shit up in the '90s. I mean, that's a different time. That's a different era, but you
uh,
know,
yeah, but
yeah.
I never felt that Cable was cool. I always felt as if he was what people thought we would think was cool. Like, Gambit was cool because the character was cool. He plays cards. I mean, even though he's got the trench coat thing going on, he's got a jacket, but
Right.
nothing about Gambit seemed forced.
Hmm.
Everything as it relates to what we knew about the character felt genuine.
Mm.
It felt comfortable because the character was comfortable with who he was. Cable comes off as being insecure in general. He already seems insecure. So adding all of these gadgets and shit like that makes him look even more insecure.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um,
Man, you pretty much nailed the character right on top, man. Like, I know these Cable fans are gonna be a little bit upset, but
where they at?
it is what it is, whatever. But I mean, they're not even real Cable fans. They're just Cable fans from Josh Brolin and Deadpool too, man. Like,
Well, where they at though?
yeah,
That's what I want
yeah.
to know. Where they at? Like, where they at, man? Like,
Oh my gosh, dude. I don't know where this I think Bishop damn, man. I don't think Bishop gets the credit he deserves in comparison to Cable. I know
right.
Cable got the push. Cable got the solo series. Cable, yeah. I mean, he's part of that '90s shtick where it's better left in the past. And yeah, man, he hasn't changed. And it's like, how do you not change in the last 20 plus years?
Yep.
How you how are you still the same, like the same concept that you were back in 1989 or whatever, you were introducing New Mutants, to 2020, you are still that same character without any real change to your at all to your tone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't. I'm just saying, man. I don't got time for that kind of shit. Like, where they at? Where is this groundswell of support for the character Cable? Where they at?
I don't know, man. I think all the John Carter fans just switched over to Cable, looking for the next future badass to latch onto or something.
Well,
Uh, I don't
oh
know,
man.
man.
I
I don't
mean,
know, dude.
well, just to take it one further, like the issue that I have with certain characters, man, and this isn't even related to what we're talking about right now, but the issue that I have with some of this stuff is like whenever you see a character start to get all of these handicaps, that means that there's nothing on the surface that makes them interesting in the first place.
Go
And I
ahead,
can
man. Spit that shit.
I mean, I'm struggling to think of some of the characters off the top of my head right now, and I'm
Hmm.
sure later on it'll come to mind. But when you just start throwing shit at the wall just because it might look cool or add a superficial layer of intrigue that wasn't there before, like it might be time to just pack them up. It might just be time to pack them up, man. I,
Oh man, you talk about like Superman from the '90s when he had guns and a black suit.
right,
Um, as Azrael from Batman, who replaced
right.
Batman. You got a mecha
Nightfall.
suit and shit. Yeah, yeah. Uh,
When we start doing that kind of stuff, man, like, and we can't actually explain why we're doing it, that's when it's time to pack it up, man. Or at least when you give an explanation, and the explanation is just, oh, because because he needed it, or because just because it looks cool. Like, it's time to pack it up, bro. Like, you know what I
right.
mean? We got to move on to the next one, or like take them back to the drawing board.
Mm.
I, I would rather see a character get stripped of something than to have something added on, personally.
Hmm.
But that's my take on that, man. I did not mean if you, this is the new drinking game for this episode will be how many times we say the word cable.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's yeah. Good luck with that for anyone who takes on that challenge for today, man.
I never want to
Oh
talk about
man.
cable again, bro.
And I'm kind of upset because they did a storyline where oh god, dude, when Cable tried to protect Hope Summers in the future, and Bishop was trying to kill Hope, and Cable was the savior. Cable, I have to protect the future. I have to protect her. She's gonna mutant. She's the next Phoenix Force, and Cable protected the little girl. And I think that was the only time they try to establish some sort of something for him where he was a little bit more of a father figure to Hope. Hope Summers, who went to the past and was the cause of the Avengers versus X-Men storyline, where she got the Phoenix Force and basically revived the whole mutant race because of the Phoenix Force, and the Avengers tried to stop the Phoenix Force from inhabiting her.
Oh
But
yeah,
I'm like, why didn't you do Bishop dirty? Why did they make him like a villain? Like the way they did Bishop was almost like the way they did Cable in that storyline. He was hell bent on killing her, hell bent on killing her. But it's like that's something Cable would fucking do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, the future depends if I kill this person. Like, was he not that character in Deadpool 2? You know what I'm saying? Hell bent
yeah,
on killing this kid because this kid could potentially, this kid had warning signs of doing like. I didn't like that. I didn't feel like that was within Bishop's character to try to kill this little kid to protect the future. And Bishop was and Cable was all of a sudden this humanitarian or trying to protect this little girl, and they made Bishop out as a villain. I think that's a cool concept. That's a cool rivalry. If you have two time travelers going at it, Bishop versus Cable,
yeah,
for sure, that's dope. But you got to have a little bit better reason than that for having them fight between the two of them. I rather Bishop disagree with like, hey, we go to this point in time and do this action, it'll stop that. And it's like, no, it won't. Like, I rather them have that kind of be the cause of a rift between those two rather than if I kill this little girl, the future is saved. Oh, yeah, I didn't think that. I didn't think that at
right.
all,
Because
man.
that rarely ever that that type of story is already kind of drawn out anyways. And I mean, the last word I'm gonna have on Cable is that the most interesting part of that character, at least from what I've seen, was in Deadpool 2, was the teddy bear. The teddy bear was the most interesting thing that Cable brought to the table in that movie there. I didn't care about the arm. I didn't care about the guns. None of that shit mattered. Honestly, I'm being real. The thing that brought the most depth to that character was the teddy bear.
Because it was the only side of him that was like human.
Right. It was the
Yeah.
only thing that they kind of could use to make that character seem sympathetic or relatable. It was the teddy bear. And it was unexpected. You wouldn't expect to see a character who has such a tough exterior carry around a
Mm-hmm.
teddy bear as a way to mark whether or not his mission was successful or not.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that was a cue taken from that storyline I talked about with Hope Summers and Bishop protecting her from the future. I think he did carry like a teddy bear on his belt. Again, I think that was the only depth this character has seen in the last since its
Yep.
inception was that
Yep.
storyline. So